Hi everyone. So this is a quick video just for those of you who are ready to move on to the report summary. As you'll see from the resources, it's really straightforward. So I'm just going to start sharing with you my resources. So there's a couple of documents that are going into your Google Classroom. They will be uploaded along with this video in a moment. So the first thing I want to share with you is the report summary even. Okay, so basically, the report summary guide is just it just tells you what you need to do. But as you'll see from going through it with me, it's really straightforward. So throughout your report, you've looked at the purposes of moving image products, print products, and interactive products. And then for the part two, which is Learn Name B, you're going to go through genre, narrative, and production techniques for two films of your choice. But we'll come back to those later. There'll be a little report summary for those as well. So, what you need to do on this report is you need to draw links between your chosen products, their purposes, and audience. So, you just need to say how your three items that you've looked at for component one learner name A so far basically share anything in common. So, for example, Mr. Murphy, who was the media teacher before me, did quite a few examples focusing on examples like Spider Man, Deadpool. We've also looked at Total Film Magazine, 442, etc. So when you look at these six examples that have been highlighted, I think it's really obvious that some of them might not they might not have any links or connections at all. But I think actually, if you was to look through your three reports that you've written so far, you'd find they would share something in common. You've deliberately chosen them because they focused or appealed to a teenage audience. So, for example, you might say that, okay, 442 is a football magazine, predominantly a primary audience of teenage boys who are really interested in their football. They might play themselves. Socioeconomic group of E being students. They might also be a higher socioeconomic group because it costs money to play, to be part of a club, or to go and watch as part of a season ticket, or to have Sky Sports or BT Sports. So that's one thing you could talk about. 442, I suppose, in theory, you could say links to a teenage primary target audience for Spider-Man as well. It's very action packed, it focuses on a teenage boy, and so we're drawing links, which is what you've been doing in your reports already, but actually that was in within one report. What you're doing now is looking at different products and how they link together. Okay, so before you write your summary, I want you to go back and look at what you've said about your products across both part one and part two. In actual fact, for this one, I just want you to talk about part one, which is Learn Name A, and I want you to plan what links you think you might have, which is what I've asked some of you to do over the last week anyway. So look at your three reports, maybe make some bullet point notes on who is your target audience, what were the purposes, what was the unique selling points, what relationships did you talk about, and then you could just kind of highlight the ones that have got something in common, that have made links. And then when you start writing your report summary, this is obviously where it starts getting quite straightforward. To begin your summary, you should start by saying now you've carefully considered products that are aimed at the target teenage audience, and then analyze how they have been linked. Connections you could pick out might be the fact that they've got the same or similar primary or secondary audiences, just like I said before, 42 and Spider-Man. Are there any links between primary audience or possibly a secondary audience? Is there anything that's appealing from one audience to another? These are just examples. You could just pick three of these and go with it. Are there any audiences that get the same uses and gratifications? I know a lot of you have talked about entertainment and escapism when it comes to Bloomer and Cats. Um, have they engaged audiences in similar ways? Have the products been constructed? Oh, this is a good one. Synergy is where this would work if you've done, for example, Spider-Man for a film, Spider-Man for a magazine or comic, and Spider-Man for a game. So it's where they the like the franchise of Spider-Man actually runs across a few different platforms, and the platforms being a film, a magazine, and a game. So that's what synergy means. So if I just take you out of this, I'm just going to make this smaller because I can't see the tabs. Let's go back to this. I'm going to show you the template. which obviously is very straightforward. You just open this up and you just start working in it yourself. A couple of things to remember is put any keywords in bold. You're looking at 3 products and how they appeal to your teenage target audience. So I want you to pick out 3 areas that you could talk about. So for example, one area might be a primary audience. So let me type on this just to show you. So one thing you might talk about is how your film and app share, oh, I can't even spell today, share the same primary audience. And then you just go into a little bit of detail as to what it was, why did they share the same audience? So I'll just put a why there. You might talk about how your magazine and your, let's say, app shared the same unique selling point. I'll put in celebs in brackets and explain why. And I want to include some theory really. So either Young and Rubicam or a socio-economic discussion or Blumler and Katz. So just say for argument, I'm going to talk about Blumler and Katz. So Blumler and Katz and the idea of personal identity. So I'm going to talk about the film and the app and explain why. So that would, for me, that would be my little plan. They're the 3 things I'm going to talk about, and I'm just going to explain why, what they shared in common, and how they appeal to a teenage target audience. So I'm going to put that in bold because that's what you need to bear in mind when you're talking about each paragraph. What from these things made them appeal to the teenage target audience. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So the template is there. There are a couple of different examples. You probably want to leave, I might not even upload this one. There is an example of a distinction. There's an example, I mean, you can already see, even just by how they're laid out, how different they are. A distinction is clear paragraphs, keywords in bold, and you'll see from the example, I've put some comments on this one. This one is all about linking a TV show Riverdale to Archie Comics even, and the link is the target audience. The next one is a link between Riverdale and how it links to an interactive product of BuzzFeed. And with particular, seem to be talking about social interaction and socio-economic groups. I think the one thing to just kind of notice from this example is that to get a distinction, you don't just have to focus on that one thing that they shared in common. So obviously, like this example is not just talking about Blue Moon Cats and the use of social interaction. Actually, if they shared anything else in common, they've mentioned it. So they've mentioned personality type of mainstreamers and the socio-economic groups as well. So you can elaborate in your paragraph, especially if you're trying to hit that distinction range. I've got a merit example here, and I think producing images is always really helpful. The documents don't need to be longer than a page long, but I think this one is quite short. And the other example I've got for you is, where is it? Where's it gone? I think is it that one? This one is, it wasn't even really quite a pass. It's far too simple. I mean, you can even tell just by the layout. Where's my 3 paragraphs? They've kind of crammed everything into one paragraph. So if they had maybe spent some time actually structuring it out a little bit better, I think this could have just hit a pass, but they would have needed to have written just slightly more. That's quite short, and I think by having a font size 16 and making it bigger, stretching it out, doesn't necessarily do it any favors anyway. So the things that I'll put into the Google Classroom, just the things we've talked about. Try and pick 3 main areas that you think you can identify links between your film, magazine and app. And to hit that distinction, don't be scared about moving away from just that one thing you can talk about. If there's other things they shared in common, then obviously throw it into your paragraph as well. But it's really straightforward. For some of you can make a start on this anyway. It won't take you very long. In fact, I think for those of you ready to move on to this, having it done and due by the end of the term is really achievable. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop sharing my um, slides with you, and I'm going to upload this now, ready for you guys to make a start. Cool, thanks.